Yo, I'm Toycat, and the trade wars have officially begun. The United States has decided to tariff its three closest trading partners, Canada, Mexico, and China, and that's going to start on Saturday the 1st of February, or today. This was rumored to be delayed until March the 1st, but the White House has said, nope, today is when these 25% tariffs are going to be beginning. That is a huge rate, and then weirdly, a lower rate on China, just 10%, but still, this is a huge amount of tariff that if it was for all goods in those countries, would be equivalent to an $830 tax on every American. And so why is a president who is so keen to lower prices choosing to do this right now? And also, given that these countries all have their own leaders with their own abilities to have levers, what is this going to happen in reverse? And what's interesting about this is Canada has been very public about their response, so let's talk about all of that now. And first things first, yes, this is an unpopular order. I think that if you were to ever have a referendum on the issue, it wouldn't go forwards, and you can tell that because immediately after doing it, the press secretary has to say, actually, this isn't about trade or unbalanced deficits or anything, it's about the illegal fentanyl that has come through the country via these partners, and, you know, it's okay for illegal fentanyl to come through as long as it gets tariffed at 25%, except it wouldn't get tariffed at 25%, would it? Because, I mean, it's illegal, it's coming through without the, whatever, you get the point, that clearly that's a sign that they know it's going to be unpopular, but what exactly is the goal with this? It seems insane besides that these are promises that we made, so we've got to keep them, except actually, let's try and go into the logic. Right now, China, Canada, and Mexico make up the top US trading partners, making up about 40% of goods imported into the US. Interestingly enough, it actually, it varies by which state you're in as to who your biggest trading partner is, but you can see for a large number of states, their biggest trading partner is Canada or Mexico, with far fewer being China, interestingly. But you can see here that, yeah, if you look at the biggest export trading partner, a lot of states are going to have their biggest partner now being tariffed, which seems really bad on a state-by-state level, but when you take it down to the country, which is what I guess the leader of a federation wants to do, you could argue, yeah, this is 40% of the goods we import come from just three places. However, the reverse side is the US is a much bigger trading partner by percentage with each of these three countries. In other words, the argument is this is probably going to hurt, but you much more than us. If you counter tariff us, then that's going to hurt you. If you just accept this how it is, then that might hurt the average consumer, but also in the long run, it's going to lead to more industry setting up here. The argument is that this will hurt you more than us, and so you can usually end up getting some pretty decent concessions from it. And so, yeah, if US imports of oil from Canada or Mexico are hit with the levies, this will undermine Trump's promise to bring down the cost of living. However, there's an argument that as this is Trump's final term, there's now no need for him to be worried about popularity and re-election, and he can instead focus solely on his political aims. Well, those aims are going to be done by him, but what's going to happen in response is interesting, because Justin Trudeau has said, who is still Canadian Prime Minister until the party he's a member of elect a new leader, but yeah, in the short process where he's a leader, he's also in the same situation where he can't be re-elected, and so he's put out his game plan for what he should do, and there's a few main options on the table. The first one is targeted tariffs. Unlike the United States, which has basically implied everything will be tariffed, we'll know the details when things actually start paying these taxes at the border, or realistically, you know, there's a fake out or things do get delayed to March the 1st, despite them saying it's not. But, you know, like if we assume this is serious, right now they're saying it's a 25% tariff on everything, and the easy response would be a 25% tariff back, but this isn't the smart way to do things politically. Instead, you basically take advantage of the fact that, sorry, wrong page. You take advantage of the fact that this map basically implies that yes, every single, each individual state is going to have a different trading relationship, and so some of these states are more valuable than others on an electoral level. As an, if you are trying to run for president or House or Senate or whatever, if you want to have control of the country, it doesn't matter what the people of Wyoming think, so you can tariff Brazil all you like. However, it does matter what the people in the swing same with, like, I guess Illinois, you could say, like, the states that reliably vote one way are not that important, whereas more important, there are some places where you can have a much more outsized impact, and so an example from last time was Florida orange juice. Florida used to be a swing state, so tariff their oranges, and all those orange producers will say, wow, I hate the president who caused this to happen. Whiskey and bourbon from Tennessee was a great example, with the Senate leader being from there, and when this happened last time, the tariffs went up, the tariffs were lifted very shortly, and so what's going to happen this time? Basically, they're going to have to pick a much larger selection of places to tariff, and the smart thing to do is to to pick the people in the small. Again, if America wants to have a system where a very small minority get to control the election, the downside of that is that those people are most sensitive to economic blows. Obviously, Canada is the country that will have a larger economic blow, but that's why you kind of have to take it down to the state-by-state or region-by-region game. As you can see right here, Canada has been declining as the import partner to the United States, largely being replaced by China and Mexico, as you can see. The other idea is just say, okay, dollar for dollar tariffs. Just make sure that exactly the amount that's being tariffed, i.e. raised on your goods, you raise on American firms. So if there's 16.6 billion Canadian dollars worth of tariffs, then you tariff American goods to the same point, working out how it works. This could go to a very, very large number, which would lead to both countries, governments making a large amount of money, which could be good for both sides, I guess you could argue, besides all the consumers and citizens and customers on both sides. And the other option is like, okay then, if this doesn't work, if for some reason neither of these are on the table, what about the energy nuclear option? This is, I think, kind of overstated, but a lot of American states are reliant on the amount of electricity that comes from Canada. Canada is a very, very big electricity producer. It's because if I'm not mistaken, it's because in the east of the country, there's a ridiculous amount of natural waterfalls and stuff like that. They call their electricity hydro, which I just don't get it. It just doesn't seem right to me. But that's how much of their electricity seemingly comes from hydropower. And so as a result, they've got all this spare electricity, which right now they sell to the US for presumably a good price based on how cheap electricity is in America relative to Europe. But yeah, they sell it to the US, and so what if they said, oh, we'll put a restriction on that, or taxes to inflict some pain, and that would cause a huge amount of pain to the states that border the Canada. So Vermont, New York, and Maine are significant people, but also Midwestern regions of the US are particularly there too. And otherwise, you could say, well, as Canadian provinces all have alcohol monopolies, they could just stop selling American booze. Not even like, oh, we'll tariff it as it comes in. Just, no, you can't buy it. It kind of was hinted at up here, but there's a big campaign right now for Buy Canadian. Basically, the exact same thing that America is trying to do to America is going to happen in reverse. This will make both the US and Canada poorer, unless they can find substitute trading partners, because there's probably a reason right now why America buys electricity from Canada and why Canada buys alcohol from America. The American alcohol is presumably cheaper or better, and the Canadian electricity is, cheaper or more reliable because hydro flows at a more reliable place, or presumably is easier than setting up your whole system. And so that is the situation with Canada. A similar one is developing in Mexico, it is worth mentioning, and China has made some very foreboding comments on the exact same thing. But all of this kind of comes down to the same issue of, right now, America has to decide what it is trying to do as a country, and all of its trading partners have to look at it and say, oof, I guess maybe it's what's going on there. And so what I think is interesting is that even though every other country is speaking strong about this, again, if you read into China's response, they did say some very interesting things, not directly referencing it by name, but China made some comments about like, ooh, yes, we would certainly like to see a win-win solution. They're willing to buy more American goods or whatever. But what's interesting is Canada put out this website talking about the $1 trillion trade and investment partnership for 150 years, basically saying like, look, you guys need to remember we're really good allies. We have $1 trillion worth of bilateral trade and services. And what's interesting is, again, by breaking it down to that state-by-state level, they remind you that, yeah, sure, some states, like according to, I think it's Illinois, weirdly, that has the biggest trade partnership with Canada, apparently. But as you can see, there's $65 billion worth of imports from Canada and $20 worth of exports to Canada, which means that Illinois actually has a huge surplus and maybe is one of the subjects of the Trump thing. However, for states like Utah, they get 3.1 billion. That's actually the exact same example. For states like, actually, I think it might be literally, okay, there we go. States like Montana, no, actually, I think literally every single state sells substantially less to, there we go. So Indiana sells more goods to Canada than its next 4 largest foreign markets combined, and also has a trade deficit with the, with Canada. If they lose this trade in both directions, then even in Trump's imaginary world where a trade deficit is the exact same thing as a like losing money, right? Because you're buying more things from them than they're buying things from you. In this case, Indiana still ends up poorer, and also they lose not just some of their they're picking all the specific examples. I think, though, the fact that, America just goes, oh yeah, we're doing this because fentanyl, and Canada has to put up this response, either shows, Canada is the adult economy, and the same is true, maybe you could say, for China or Mexico, or you could make the point that exactly, like the kind of goal is here, that this is specifically trying to achieve that alienation of trade. America believes that it will do better if it works less with the world, at least its current leader believes that, and what's really interesting is a line of this article maybe clarifies exactly what Trump wants. Even after the tariff wars end, even after, let's say it takes a full year for these tariffs to be lifted, but realistically, if they end much sooner, any concessions gotten are big wins for you politically, but more importantly, after these tariffs come into being, the amount of trade that's going to happen is probably going to flatten. A lot of people are going to start seeing America as a less reliable ally, and as soon as that happens, a lot of people are going to say, yeah, we could start exporting to America, but does it make sense yet? And is that a good thing for America, who's looking to buy fewer foreign goods? It shouldn't be. Anyone who understands free trade and how actual, anyone who understands the reason that we buy things from other countries should say no. But if you live in a world, which increasingly more and more people do, where you believe that, yeah, when countries buy things from you, they are giving you money, and when you buy things from other countries, you're just giving them money as a form of welfare. If you see it that way, and you see buying things as a scam, like, oh, why is it when I go to the store and I buy eggs, I get, I get just stupid, worthless eggs, and they get, this my valuable piece of magic paper that can buy me anything. If you see things that way round rather than the inverse, which is you get goods, you get things. I got an Xbox controller, and all I had to do is give someone this paper that is literally worthless and going down in value every year. If you see things that way, you probably will end up, you would want to be a country that buys things from the world, but obviously this kind of depends on apparently your political views at this point, and that is the interesting place that we have arrived at. Speaking of interesting places we've arrived at, I really can't stop looking at this map. I think it's fascinating that Utah buys the most from the UK. How can that be true? And Switzerland with Nevada? Australia and Hawaii? Every time I look at this map, I find another state where I'm like, what's going on there? What is South Carolina buying from China? I need to know. What is Delaware buying from the UK? I need to know the answer to all of these questions. Like with Connecticut, it's definitely just buying all of the champagne from France, right? But there's a lot of wealthy people there, got a lot of expensive French imports. But I really want to know how this will end up in the long run. It does seem as though, thankfully, for the UK and Europe as a whole, I kind of was, this kind of ties into the Brexit point we were making, of like, as a country, we were largely in this situation, right, where like, oh yeah, maybe North America will have more trading friends, like the Anglosphere should be going pretty well for us, and sure, we got decent trading agreements with Canada, Australia, New Zealand, but the United States is proving like, oh yeah, you don't want to be reliant on those guys. Like if we, thankfully we are like their 7th largest trading partner or whatever it is, and it is actually a balanced trade relationship. We buy roughly the same amount from them as they buy from us, but being close to the United States means now they're getting to the point where they're like, yeah, but if you're not, paying your fees, if you're not keeping in touch with that. And so I've never been more glad to be on the other side of an ocean from the United States. And as someone who sees the US as what should be our closest ally, I think that's a bummer. I think it's a bummer that my biggest gratitude in the political situation of the UK is not having to worry about our currency tanking. Canadian dollar's going down pretty hard, by the way. I don't have to worry about our currency tanking and our economy and, our exporters being like, oof, these people promised to buy these things, but now they're not able to because of taxes. And yeah, I also am glad that we're not being threatened to be annexed as a state, I guess. But yeah, is that a good thing? Honestly, you could say, yeah, even if it sucks for your friends, if your friends start paying you money, maybe that's good. But I look at the current situation and I go, surely at some point, someone's going to say, are you sure this is the right move? But maybe in the long run for the US, it is. But I would have hoped, as a British person, that you'd try to make more friends as you go about doing it. But maybe when you've got guns and money, you don't need friends, I guess. For now, though, this is. I hope you enjoyed the opinion section of this video. I want to hear your thoughts. Actually, you know what? Not sure that is true. But as always, I'll let you know the other fun things happening in the world. Because for now, second channel, don't care. So I mentioned we're doing this like semi-daily video format. So one, you can support that via Patreon if you want. There's a link down below. But also, that means on the weekends we'll have filler videos, particularly Sunday. And so this week's filler video is going to be a lot of fun. Let's just say I went to France for McDonald's again, but like differently. It's great. Look forward to seeing you there. You can see a little bit of my trip to the Western Hemisphere. Yeah, see you.